Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Turkey's leading logistics and automotive media group, AYSBERG, I warmly welcome you to the next round of Tea&Talk. My name is Stefan Iskan'ın. I'm a professor of supply chain management and e-business at the University of Applied Sciences Ludwigshafen am Rhein in Germany, and I'm the academic advisor of the AYSBERG Group. Next to me sitting is already Mr. Gökalp Çak. Mr. Çak is vice chairman of the executive board of Turkey's leading logistics company, Netlog Logistics.
Yeah.
Gökalp Bey, welcome and hoş geldiniz.
Hoş bulduk.
How is the booth actually running?
How is the what running, sir?
How is the booth running?
The booth. It's good, actually. It's very good. I mean, it's better than expected. Every year it gets better. And this year, actually, we have received more interest than we were expecting. So,
are you meeting merely existing customers, or do you see potential customers?
we have both potential customers, existing customers, customers looking for new solutions. So it was a very good experience for us, actually, this year.
Gökalp Bey, we once already met.
Yes.
And we had a first impression of both of us. It's
Yes.
quite interesting. You are one of the strongest persons also here in the Turkish logistics market. Together with your father, you have established an own-based major integrated logistics company. When reading over your CV, you enjoyed education in Switzerland and at the Boston University in the US.
Yep.
Why haven't you started at the beginning of your career directly in your father's company?
Well, I wanted to. He didn't let me. His rule was actually, you need to go work somewhere else for a minimum period of 7 years, really experience the real life, be treated like a low-level employee, experience what actually employees go through, work for your money, and then come back to family business. Mm-hmm. So that was actually his strategy rather than mine. And that being said, to be honest, I never wanted to do this business, just to be honest. I wanted to be a finance guy, but I did that, actually, for a couple of years. And then I said, you know what, it's not for me. Because I've been in this business since 6 years old. I was working with my father every time he would go to work.
You saw him?
After school, he would take me to work with him. So then I said, you know what, I cannot do a desk job. I need to do something more active. So I went back to the transport industry.
I experienced the same background, and at the end I was as stupid as you to go to the logistics industry.
I don't know if I would choose the same road again, to be honest, but okay.
I would at least.
So far I'm happy.
Frankly speaking, who's the stronger one? Who is the decision maker, you or your father by today?
It is a gas and brake relationship. Sometimes he's the gas and I brake him. I stop him from making decisions. Sometimes I'm the one who actually push him forward and he stops me. It's a very well-balanced relationship between us. What's more important thing is, though, we get along very well. See, at work, we are not father and son. At work, he is the president and I'm the vice president. We fight. Sometimes we fight very aggressively, you know. It comes in a way that we don't talk for hours. But then we always find the right way to move forward. So it's a very well-balanced relationship. But that's not because of me, it's because of him, because, you know, he's a very modern person. He actually follows the technology more than me. He's very far advanced compared with his age peers.
I hear that your mother is doing a great job, always
he's
moderating.
He's the chairman. She's the chairman. You know, in all Turkish families, there's a CEO, there's a vice president, but there's always a chairman at home. You always report to them, so we are used to that.
Gökalp Bey, you lived in Switzerland and in France.
Yes.
And looking back to your background, and by today you are one of the most internationalized companies in the Turkish market. You are going to China, you are going to the US, to the CIS markets. When it comes to culture, do you see a different mindset how outside of Turkey is running the logistics business compared to the domestic market?
It does actually vary. To be honest, you know, the people, if you ask me who do you enjoy most working with, I would say Americans. Because they are so open-minded. They love outsourcing. They are very ready to operate under an outsourcing mentality. In Europe, it's a different story. In Europe, people are more involved into the business details. They want to outsource things, but they also want to drive the car as well while they're outsourcing. When you look at Turkey, unfortunately, we have a different type of customer. where we have to convince our customers why outsourcing is good. And this is something to do with the evolution of logistics. You know, Turkey is a fairly new market on development of logistics. We are getting there. What we see is this trend actually came to Turkey with internationals. First came the international brands, then they brought international forwarders and logistics service providers with them. And then the Turkish companies saw that, oh, there's something called logistics, you know, and then we started developing it. So really, we are looking at a history of 15 to 20 years maximum.
Yeah.
But it's getting faster and it's getting better. So I think eventually we will see that there will be more outsourcing operations in Turkey. And Turkey is actually a very hard market to deal with. Because in Turkey, we have a customer type who wants everything for the best price, which does not really, it's not very hard to collaborate. You know, it's very hard to arrange. But we still try to do our best. Because of the competition, there's a huge amount of competition in the Turkish market. So you need to find ways to survive within this market as well. And that's what we do best. So when we go to Europe, when we open up a warehouse in Belgium or in America, what we see is these customers are so easy to deal with for us because they know what they want. They are already used to everything that we want to sell them. So it's actually, we agree with them very fast. We spend half the energy that we do back here on a customer where we are looking to do logistics in America.
You mentioned already the keyword outsourcing. Compared to other markets, for example, to Germany and to the European logistics market, in Europe it is assumed that logistics business is outsourced by about 50% of the total logistics market volume. When it comes to Turkey, from my point of view, I see it's traditionally a transport-based market, FTL, LTL groupage. We see a lot of sophisticated contract logistics business, for example, in Netlog or also at Ekol, for example, in the textile industry. But in the automotive sector, it is less developed than in the mature markets like in Europe or Germany, for example.
Yeah, but it's also something to do with the size of the automotive industry in Turkey. You know, Turkey is, although is an important player in manufacture of OEMs or spare parts, still is compared to Germany or Spain or even Hungary, the volumes in Turkey are so small still. There are so few players. It's not like 50 different companies that you can deal with, there's only 4 or 5 of them. So there's only so much possibility to have outsourcing operations in Turkey.
Yeah.
Again, it is something that will go in line with the growth in economy, growth in the industry. If you see more automotive factories coming to Turkey, you will grow bigger. The problem is, it's when you work under a high margin business, then outsourcing is much easier. When your margins are squeezed because of economic crisis and environment, business environment, then people really start pushing harder on their vendors, and then this business becomes less interesting for the vendors, so they start doing it in-house. And we see this trend too. In economic crisis, most of the time, the companies, instead of trying to increase their sales, they do their best to squeeze their vendors. So they turn to the wrong direction. And what you see is actually, okay, they say, oh, you know what, you work 100 people here, I work 100 people there. So they make their calculation and they don't want to give you anything in return, and you say, okay, then do it yourself. That's the mentality. So we see that it's getting tougher, but there's always a place for us to grow our operations.
You consider the Turkish automotive industry as, let's say, small or medium-sized market
compared to
Central Europe or Germany, of course. Definitely not a small or medium-sized business is your company. You have established Turkey's leading integrated logistics provider with about a yearly turnover of 500, 600 million euros last year.
Yes.
Does it make you proud and your Çak family?
It does, but you know what makes us sad is that actually 55% of our turnover is created outside Turkey, not in Turkey, because we had to balance it well. Because the competition in Turkey is so tough, it's really hard to make profitable business in Turkey as well. And what we do is we are looking for growth outside Turkey as well, in countries where we feel that our experiences in Turkey and the know-how we acquired in Turkey actually can benefit us, which is what we do. We move our actual know-how to countries like India now, in Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Now we have started in UAE 2 years ago. We have actually already filled our capacity. Now we are growing double the size. We are entering into India now, starting up proper warehouses in India. We are looking to develop in Saudi Arabia. So we are trying to put our know-how and infrastructure in our surrounding regions where we feel that the Turks are like generally, culturally wise, and where our culture can really understand the culture of the other side and actually adapt to them. So for an American to come do business in Iran is very hard. But for a Turkish to go do business in Iran is actually not as hard. So that's what we are trying to do now.
When it comes to exploring new markets, you see a lot of German-based international logistics service provider. They merely go with their existing companies or existing customers to new markets.
Yes.
How about Netlog? Are you able to develop local domestic customers, or do you go with Turkish ones?
You see, right now, even in Belgium, we have very recently won big tenders from these global companies, which you have mentioned. We have actually a couple of customers who left them to come work with us. This is all we do now. Because what we see in the global trend, you see, now you have these global monsters, I call them, the giant companies. And I really do respect them. You know, we have a company which is 7,000 people today, and I have such a hard time managing it.
Yeah.
These guys manage 500,000 people. So you cannot say they are bad managed companies because, you know, even the way they are managing their business right now is so admirable. You know, I wouldn't want to own a DHL. I wouldn't want to be the CEO of a DHL as well because it's a different lifestyle. But what we see now with the global customers, they say, you know what, back in the day with globalism, let's say, they wanted one service provider globally. Now we see them running away from that. Now they are dividing the world into segments. They are saying, you know what, okay, we want one service provider for Europe, but all of Europe. We want one service provider for Asia, but all of Asia. So we actually tell our customers, you know, Netlog, if you are looking for a service provider in Asia, Netlog is not your man. You have this KL Logistics, you have Toll Logistics, you have all these big companies who are extremely powerful in this part of the world. Yeah. But if you are talking about Europe, Middle East, and Central Asia, then we say, you know what, Netlog is your man because we as Netlog developed all our know-how in this region. So if you are a company manufacturing your products in China, but your headquarters in New York, but you want to cover the whole 49 countries, 1.2 trillion people reach within this Europe, Middle East, Central Asia region, then you know what, Netlog has that necessary hub and spoke infrastructure for you. Yeah. And that's what we do actually. I spend 80% of my time traveling around the globe, talking to these global customers, explaining them why working with Netlog is actually more advantageous for them than working with a global giant. Again, some say, you know what, we want to work with a local regional company. Some say, yes, we do like that regional concept, but we don't have the necessary people in our logistics department to manage that, so they still work with the globals. But, you know, we keep on trying.
Maybe Gökalp, the integrated international logistics service providers, when we see their past, where did they come from? Where have they been arrived? This is just a merger of all smaller and medium-sized companies.
But when you look at it, it's heavily governments. You see, when you look at the top companies, apart from the America is the headquarters of capitalism. So there's nothing government there. When you look at the world giants, or Geopost, you know, all these global companies out of Europe are actually either founded or heavily backed by governments. Which is fine because it's a government strategy. They say, you know what, logistics is actually the most important thing for a country to develop globally. Without logistics, no matter what you manufacture, no matter what you produce, you will not be able to sell. Yeah. So control of logistics is very important. That's why they have invested heavily on these companies. Now, in our country, we don't have that strategy yet. Will it ever happen? Probably not. But what we feel is, I think there is enough business because logistics market is going to grow in the world. As the number of people increase in the world, as the volume of consumption increases in the world, there will be more logistics companies. Will there be consolidation? Most probably there will be consolidation. But there will always be that playground for companies of our size to develop in that region as well. So,
I would like to thank you for your open words so far. Don't forget to drink your chai as well.
Yeah, stop me if I say something against the governments because I tend to do that a lot.
Maybe it's
and I
better,
get
right?
hurt from them.
In 2014, the Netlog Logistics Group acquired T&T Fashion Netherlands.
Yes.
What can we expect next in the market?
Honestly, I mean, We are speaking with a couple of more companies to acquire in Europe.
Yeah.
We
Which markets would be interesting?
In the Scandinavian markets we are looking at right now.
How about Germany?
We are interested in Germany. It's a tougher market. What I can tell you is that we are not interested in companies in France. That I can tell you for sure. We are looking for companies in UK. We are looking for companies in USA.
Southeastern Europe, any plans?
Southeastern Europe, no, not for now. Because what we do is for the customer portfolio that we need, we want to be closer to the high volume income level. So people actually can spend money on consumption. Yeah. It's more interesting for us. And we want to be in locations where actually the big corporates are. Southeast Europe, when you look at it, let's say the Balkans or the Eastern European part, yes, there are a lot of manufacturing going on there. Yeah. But we actually like to more towards the consumption side rather than the manufacturing side. Our global forwarding division is operating there. So we actually are capable of moving cargo throughout the world.
And a lot of local heroes.
Exactly. But for logistics, warehousing, and distribution, we want to be in actually higher, let's say, populated areas.
Warehousing is a good keyword. It sounds that Netlog Logistics Group has an ambitious growth plan behind, or in the desk.
Very aggressive growth plan.
Very aggressive, yes. From which industry segments should the growth come from? FMCG, textile, automotive?
You see, currently we have 23 companies in the group, but we have 9 major brands, 9 major companies with major brands. And each of their growth plans is different than the others. So Polar Express is looking to grow in India now.
It's cold chain, supply chain.
Cold chain logistics is looking to grow in India now. Intercombi is looking to grow in Europe. Yeah. Our fashion division, Blackman, is looking to grow in America heavily. Netlog is looking to grow in Middle Eastern and Central Eastern, Central Asia regions. So again, the growth, I think the big growth will be coming from our Blackman division next year. The year after, it will be coming from our Polar Express company in the cold chain division. But you know, we are very diversified. We call ourselves a very well managed portfolio company. So we have different services in different companies. So we make sure that when one industry goes down, another one goes up. So the company always can sustain its growth strategy for the future.
Gökalp, we already talked about culture. We talked about your very aggressive expansion plans. Considering the different markets, do you consider Netlog to be a Turkish or European brand?
It's a global logistics service provider. It's a regional logistics service provider with a Turkey-based mentality. You see, we are very proud to be Turks, and we are not looking to put ourselves out there as someone else. But what we are saying is we are global Turks. So we want to bring our culture across the world. But everywhere we go, we also work with the locals there. We make sure that they actually work the way we are. For example, we have a big team coming from India to work in our warehouses to learn the business. We tend to train all foreigners in our infrastructure in Turkey, inject them with our culture, way of doing business, and send them back to their countries. Because you'd be amazed, in the Middle East, in Central Asia, or North Africa, actually Turks are very admired, very much admired.
Definitely.
So, and we want to keep on putting that out there.
Many professionals outside of the Turkish logistics market have not on the radar that the Netlog Logistics Group is also running its own parcel network in Turkey. With respect to your business solutions, and automatization and digitalization is one of the buzz and also keywords in the entire logistics industry. How would you evaluate your own digitalization and automatization degree within your company? The connection between the single divisions?
Probably in our IT department, when you talk about technology department, I like to call it actually, because systems development and IT hardware division works hand in hand. We have over 100 people working in developing systems for our customers. We have our in-house, integration teams. We have our own software writers. We are capable of modifying even our SAP today. But what we tend to do is we make sure that in some countries where labor is extremely cheap, we go with more manual labor. Some countries where it's extremely expensive, then we go to automatization. Some businesses are small enough to manage with manual, but some are so big, even if you want to do manual, you can't. So we actually have a team of people that just keep on working on how to structure the business. IT, technology, own software, these are all extremely important things, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is your HR, human resource. Because no matter how clever your IT is, it is someone else punching in the numbers back there. And if they don't do it right, it doesn't work. So we actually do invest a lot in IT, but we also do invest a lot in our people to make sure that they run a proper system behind.
We talked about IT and innovation. And now I see your father is exactly watching what you are saying. Your father once said we have to work innovative and different on the company's webpage. From your point of view, what characterizes the Netlog Logistics Group and what are you making different than your competitors?
We don't sell something to our customers that they don't need. And we try to keep it simple, because simple is the best thing to service to a customer. Just making it complicated doesn't necessarily mean that making it better. Because what we have to understand is today everyone runs a very tough business. There's huge pressure on all our customers with costs. So we don't want to just increase costs by trying to sell them something which looks better for us, but actually not to their advantage.
This is short-term thinking.
Netlog never works with a customer as a customer. We work with them as partners. And we tell to our customers as well, listen, if you see us just as another vendor, then we don't want to be in this relationship, because there's a lot of companies like that you can do. We don't want to be just seen as a price point competition level. What we want to do is, if you want to develop something for the long run, maybe the first year you don't benefit from it, maybe financially it doesn't reflect to the numbers, but there's always somewhere else that our value comes along the supply chain, which creates you bigger positive side effects on the long run. So we actually like to work with customers who do understand this. And then those relationships last. We have a lot of customers in our portfolio right now, and I'm talking about big customers, whom we have 10+ year contracts with. Because they say, you know what, we like you as people, we like your company, your mentality,
your approach,
and we want to work together with you on developing a better supply chain. And it's not about that €100 difference on the truck cost, or it's not about that €50 difference on the per person headcount. We are talking about much larger issues, right? So when the customer sees it this way, then we develop miracles with them.
We are at logitrans in Istanbul. In 2013, together with Utikat, for example, I published a study about the Turkish logistics market. Based on the findings, the Turkish logistics market would be the 8th biggest European logistics market. For example, Germany has a total logistics volume of about 220 up to 240 billion euros. Compared to that, Turkey has about 40 billion euros. Where do you see the capabilities of the Turkish transportation and logistics market in the next 5 up to 10 years?
Listen, we work very in line with the strategies of the government as well. It's an infrastructure issue. Today everyone has money to buy trucks. It's the easiest thing to buy trucks. Everyone can build warehouses. But the more important thing is, what is the government on the other side doing to make sure that the country becomes a logistics hub? Because, yes, Germany, first of all, when you look at the GDP of Germany, the consumption of Germany, and compare it with Turkey, it's normal that they're so much bigger than us, actually. But if we are talking about Turkey as a gateway, because you're not only talking about in-country consumption, you're also talking about what the country can act as for the international markets. So there needs to be some governmental changes, there need to be some ease on customs issues, there need to be some other, things, railways. You have
framework.
To think in the wider
area.
Unless we do that, we will continue like this. But if we do that, then actually Turkish logistics market can grow quadruple in the next 10 years, in line with the government's expectation of 2023. But it looks tough for now.
Definitely. Still, with a focus on the Turkish logistics market. There are a lot of international and German-based logistics companies that have heavy plans to invest more in the Turkish market. They have plans to go into merger and acquisitions in the Turkish market. So far, from my point of view, the international, the integrated ones, or the global ones you mentioned, they have a heavy footprint in air freight and ocean freight, less transportation, some contract logistics business with their customers from their home-based countries. What kind of tip would you give the international ones when they want to come to Turkey?
First of all, they need to think like a Turk. I'll be very honest. I was with an American company yesterday, a big $2 billion American transport company. And our European division is looking to the joint venture with them. And I told them very honestly, I said, an American company can never come into Europe and successfully manage an operation because it's so much different. Whereas we as a European company can go to America and manage an amazing business. Same thing between Turkey and Europeans. A Turkish company, a well-developed Turkish company who is us, maybe our good competition, can go to Europe and manage a very straightforward, perfect organization. But a European company to come to Turkey with their local, so let's say a German company came to Turkey and just with German regulations, German mentality, if you want to survive in Turkish market, it will be very tough for you. So you need to change to your Turkish mentality. You need to consider the Turkish way of salaries. You know, what we have seen historically, all these global companies came into Turkey, gave double the salaries that we were paying our employees, and they messed up the whole market, and no one benefited from it. Neither us, neither them, neither the staff, because the staff also had a tough time because they kept on losing their jobs too. So coming to a country just because you are making good money in your country and think that Turkey is going to be like that without understanding the market and spending money on rent, warehouse rents or staff is just messing up the market conditions. And that's what they have done. So now I think most of them learn and they're adapting to it. But Turkey is a tougher market than Europe. Again, the customers are very different.
Relationships.
Expectations of the customers are very different. Turkish people are very emotional. They still have a lot of personal way of doing business between companies. Loyalty is very different. You know, there's a lot of differences between cultures. And if you do this, trying to do this without understanding the culture properly, yes, you will maybe work with a lot of German customers from Germany in Turkey for a while, but eventually not only you're not going to get any Turkish customers, your German customers will find Turkish service provider and they will leave you too. So this is you know, basically my message to them: don't come.
I would recommend, by the way, the same, or find a nice and attractive joint venture partner.
Yes,
that would be an option. You delivered two keywords: money and tough. 2015 so far was, from a political and economical side, a tough year. When looking to your group's business, what makes you proud? Which division unit is running well and which one is worrying you?
Organic-wise, actually, this year Netlog grew still 25%, which amazes me, to be honest, because every single, let's say, expectation I put out there failed me. And I said, okay, you know what, maybe I really don't know this country and this is my business. But this year is so far going very good for us.
Yeah.
Even though all these chaotic environments in the region.
And you invested in China.
We invested, but you know, our Chinese businesses, you know, our European businesses are doing amazing. When you talk about only our Turkish business, I was not expecting it to be
that way,
like this today.
How about the Turkish lira devaluation we have seen this year?
Of course, it hurt us. Right now, you see, in Netlog, again, we have a lot of divisions. Our international trucking division is a mess. We are not making money. The rates are way down. The volumes are down. There's a tough competition. Our intercombi trucking division is having a very tough time surviving. It's actually not so. It's losing money. It's the only company within our group that loses money. Whereas when you look at our cold chain divisions, warehousing divisions, we have actually done okay. Next year seems to be better than this year, but I think still it's not resolved. I think there is still a lot of tough times waiting for us, the industry, in the next year.
What do you expect for next year, for the group and for the Turkish industry?
I don't expect anything anymore. To be honest, when a customer asks me, okay, you know, give us rates for next year, I cannot even give them rates anymore because I don't know. It can hurt me, so I tell them, you know what, annual rates I don't give right now because I don't know. It can hurt me, it can hurt them. So it's better to wait and see how things will develop in the next months to come. For the currency-wise...
By the way, that's the Turkish style in general.
Yes. But for the currency-wise, to be honest, I do still expect an increase in dollar and euro against Turkish lira.
Yeah.
Although it is, I would be very happy if it stays at this rate level, because now we can adapt to it. The biggest problem is not if it increases or if it decreases. The biggest problem is the sudden moves. So because if let's say tomorrow dollar becomes or euro becomes 350, yes, it will be a chaos, but then the country adapts to itself. And if you know that it's going to stay in that level, you can actually do your pricing accordingly. But what's the worst is you don't know. You know, it goes up to 3.5, it goes down to 3, and then you just cannot do any calculations. That's what gives us a hard time on our cost levels, actually. And especially the biggest problem is if the government next year really does increase the minimum wage level, I don't know what's going to happen. Only it will hurt Netlog by a couple of million euros, minimum 3 to 4 million euros. And then you look at your customers, which is the textile industry and all the construction, they're already running a tough time surviving in the global conditions. How the hell are they going to survive with the new salaries? I don't know. So we'll see. A lot of interesting things on the agenda.
Gökalp, we started our Tea&Talk round with some personal questions about your education, about your family. If there are some professionals coming from the international companies are used to work with paid managers, cold-blooded managers, just doing their job within their contract frame 3 up to 5 years. That is, so strategy is not planning in that context. There is no strategy when you have, as a CEO, a contract of 3 years. You are just focusing on short-term wins. What would you recommend these kind of professionals when they are interested in working with you as an entrepreneurial and a family-owned business? Where do you see the differences?
We are a family-owned business, but we are not run like a family-owned business. Trust me, if I don't perform, my father will fire me the next day. And if he does not perform,
says yes.
And if he does not perform, we'll probably fire him the next month. That's something else. It's not about my or his wealth or his business. It's about the survival of Netlog.
Yeah.
Netlog is not Gökalp and Çak. Netlog is 7,000 people. When we fail, everyone suffers. So we cannot afford to fail as management. And by the way, I'm not only, I am just one of the 8 top-level managers in the company. Yes, I am the group vice president, but at the end of in my level, we have 8 people
Divisional.
who are just as good as what they do as me. So basically, we are a family-owned company, but we are not a family-managed company. Yes, true, having father and son partnership is very good.
Yeah.
We take decisions much faster, but we always have a board. We have a board, actually, and we keep on discussing. And if it doesn't get approved from the board, we don't move forward. So he cannot fire someone without the approval of the right, council. I cannot fire someone because I don't like someone. So it is actually, in that perspective, we are very corporate. But we take decisions much faster than a big group as well. That's the difference.
So you used the word firing many times in the last couple of seconds.
Yes.
So I guess your mother, as the chairperson, still has a lot of stuff again to moderate between you.
Yeah.
I thank you for joining our today's interview session. I wish you a lot of very impressive meetings with your customers on your booth, and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.